Golden Crow, one of the three great beasts conceived in the sun star transformed by Pangu. This beast is three-legged like a crow, but covered with golden feathers. It is born with the real fire of the sun. Chi Yao is one of them. The day after she left the hibiscus tree on a whim, she was shot by a mysterious iron arrow. The man holding the crescent bow yelled, "You are the last one." Golden Crow. Chi Yao? She was still wondering, and she heard her youngest sister crying in the distance, "Oh you, brother Haoyi, don't kill me. Don't kill her, kill Chi Yao naturally." The man hesitated for a moment, then gave little Golden Crow the chance of life. The trash sister stayed, hung in the sky, and would never be transformed, while Chi Yao was killed by an arrow. Later generations wrote down the story, called Ho Yi Shoots the Sun. Ill. Chi Yao couldn't help but cursed. She opened her eyes and stared at the strange and familiar face in the mirror for a long time. The story in her mind passed, and she finally suppressed her anger. After she was shot through with an arrow by Ho Yi, Bai Zi, who knew everything, rescued her and let her enter the cycle of reincarnation through the curse paper of the sentence, and find her own incarnation to warm her soul. The world she is in now is different from the world where the 11,520 kinds of monsters survive. It is dominated by humans. The monsters seem to exist in their fantasy novels and cannot prove their existence. Her Jinyu incarnation name is Shenru Eao, an idle trainee who is not well known for a certain entertainment company. Judging from the appearance, although it is not as good as her original face, it is also outstanding. Those beautiful phoenix eyes look forward to the brilliance as they turn, and they are all amorous when they look up at will. But she died miserably. The first is to be trapped and sent to the bed of Gu Mink, the villain of this world. Although Gu Zik likes beautiful women, she hates other people using such a way to get to the top. Not only did he humiliate the original owner, he also sent his subordinates to throw the herbal medicine Shenru Eao out of the hotel's door. Unconsciously, Shenru Eao was picked up by people on the roadside at will, ruining her clean. When I woke up the next day, everything was too late. The person who raped her was not found, and the company placed a yellow card ban because of her. She lived in a muddle-headed manner, regretful and sad in her heart. After finally having a way out, the National Beautiful Girl variety show started, and she was launched by the company to participate. When I planned to use this opportunity to show myself well, Shenru Eao was tested by Variety's health inspection system to be pregnant. Shenru Eao was exposed on a large scale online, mocking her pregnant idol. That's how she didn't give up her heart to live, until she suddenly heard the company's executives chatting. Did she realize that all this is a trap? It's so miserable. Chi Yao couldn't help but stretched out her hand to help her forehead. How stupid it is to be raped. It doesn't matter if you are raped without taking medicine. Don't you keep the evidence for the first time to report to the police? Also, why the unexpected pregnancy? Stop fighting. Just because it's that person's child. Chi Yao endured and endured, adjusted her mentality, and told herself that the incarnation was also part of her. Don't be annoyed, don't be angry, and stay strong. Now the story has progressed to the point where she was taken out of the wine shop by the company, and several trainees who were with her at the same time were sitting in the waiting compartment. According to what the above manager told them in advance, these little girls can only go in when he greets them to go in. Chi Yao noticed that there was a girl next to her who had been looking at her, so she turned her head to look over. The girl had a beautiful face, and she was a little panicked when she saw Shenru Eao looking back, Bambi's wet eyes filled with grievances. Chi Yao raised her eyebrows and asked softly, "What's the matter?" "No," Ji Minjiao shook her head, "Sister never sits with us. I am a little happy to see you today." When I said this, it not only praised Shenru Eao, showing her a bit different from others, but also made people who heard this feel that they were pitifully dying in the group. Sure enough, hearing Ji Minjiao's words, several other members around him looked at Chi Yao with a little more disdain and malice. Qi Yao was not too busy to fight back, reaching out and holding Ji Minjiao's hand. There was a little more smile and sincerity on Zhang Minjian's face, and she was a little surprised and delighted. Does my sister want to be friends with me? As soon as he spoke, Qi Yao laughed again before Ji Minjiao could react. She looked at Ji Minjiao and smiled softly. There are too many people who want to sit with me. How old are you? Relying on Shen Ruiao's upright person to set up Ji Minjiao's sentence, she felt a little better for being messed up by the incarnation. As if she didn't expect her to say that, Ji Minjiao choked and lowered her head. She glanced at her hand, and the soft and cool touch seemed to be still there. The charming face of that person inadvertently in front of her in the past overlapped with her fingers. Ji Minjiao raised her head and glanced at Qi Yao. His heartbeat was inexplicably fast. Qi Yao thought about her in her heart. Season bright moon, the central force of this world. Just like her trash sister who took the koi design, everything is smooth sailing. Not only is the star road bright, but also has the means. It was Ji Minjiao who prescribed Shen Ruiao before. The relationship between the Ji family and the Gu family behind her is not good. She prescribes medicine to the original owner. One is to remove the original owner's threat on the future star road, and the other is to hope that the original owner and Gu Mink's affairs can be threatened by her as a threat to Gu Mink. But this indirectly harmed the original owner's life. The manager soon came as planned, and he waved to the girls, motioning them to sit in. Qi Yao sat among the girls according to the manager's arrangement. Knowing that Ji Minjiao will prescribe medicine, she will have a snack and try to avoid her methods. Qi Yao, wearing a red dress, sat in the middle of the girl. The hem of the long dress fell to the ground, sweeping out a shadow. The attack on that Minjian face was very strong, like the scorching sun, confident and full of temptation. The phoenix eyes were slightly picked, full of style. Ji Minjiao sat next to her, staring at Qi Yao, and seeing her long skirt falling to the ground, she felt a little urge to help her pick it up. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at the little powder in the tip of her index finger. The black eyes seemed to become deeper. Qi Yao looked at the wine table. These girls are really used to give favors, and Qi Yao is the most precious and beautiful one of them. The men and women representing capital sit directly opposite them, and the 2 rows of tables are full of the same food. For them, these foods are not as attractive as young girls. Let's eat. A somewhat greasy man said, rubbing his hands restlessly, his somewhat muddy eyes staring at Qi Yao. Wait. The manager wiped the sweat from his forehead anxiously. Mr. Gu hasn't come yet. As soon as the voice fell, the door was pushed open from the outside. The man who opened the door wore black sunglasses, a uniform headset, sunglasses, and gloves. He stopped wherever he went, and after a quick round of inspections, he stood to the side, revealing the woman behind him. The woman was wearing a black suit skirt with a neatly ironed white shirt, and all the buttons around her neck were buttoned to the last one. The hair on both sides was combed behind the ears, and the eyes were still wearing gold glasses. His face was full of indifference, and the whole person was filled with an aura of extreme abstinence. Qi Yao gathered up his careless mentality and looked at the woman presumptuously. The gaze swept from her face to her exquisite figure and slender waist. Fine, toxic, beautiful, abstinent. It's the type she likes. She came late, but no one dared to say anything. Those who were sitting opposite Qi Yao stood up frequently, began to give way to her, and smiled flatteringly. Mr. Gu, sit here and sit here. Mr. Gu is here. Oops, wait a while, and we will be a while. President Gu, please sit in. Qi Yao saw the dog faces of these people and couldn't help but hooked up the corners of her mouth. Just as she was looking at the woman across from her, Qi Yao raised her eyebrows, holding her chin in one hand, lazily and ambiguously, raised her eyebrows at her. The look of amorous feelings seemed to be a disaster from a land of subjugation. Gu Ck glanced at her and continued to remain motionless. Qi Yao is not in a hurry. The medicine to avoid Ji Minjiao is certain, but Gu Mink is sure to take it. The dark waves of a meal flow, and the manager is constantly observing the faces of several investors, and is also thinking about the issue of personnel allocation. As the most eye-catching person among the few girls, Xiao naturally focused on her, but there was also Gu Shik in this meal. What if Mr. Gu also fell in love with Shen Ruiao? The scene suddenly froze. Seeing that investors didn't say anything and didn't want to offend Gu Mike, the manager could only gritted his teeth secretly, thinking that the big deal would come again next time. After Xiao teased Gu Mike at first, she ignored her again. After eating a 3-point full at the moment, I was thinking about going to the toilet to make up my lipstick. Looking at Chi Yao's back, Ji Minjiao exchanged positions with the girl next to her. She obviously went to help Chi Yao push the goblet in, but actually spilled all the powder in her nails into the wine. As soon as she arrived at the toilet, there were footsteps behind her. Waiting outside. The woman's cold voice sounded not far from the door. Chi Yao's smile became brighter. She traced the lipstick carefully in the mirror, looking at the woman who walked to her side from the corner of her eyes. Chi Yao pretended to be surprised. Mr. Gu? Are you coming to the bathroom too? Gu Ck's tone remained unchanged, sweeping her back to her straight buttocks and smooth back. Her throat was itchy, but there was a trace of scrutiny in her eyes looking at Chi Yao. Didn't you let me come? Just now under the table, the fairy kept reaching out and hooking her calf, a piece of soggy, which almost broke Gu Ming's work. Chi Yao turned around, stretched out her hand to support the sink at the back, smiled happily at Gu Zik, and Yan Li's face met her eyes. White soft and delicate hands hooked to Gu Ming's hem, red lips curled up, and his tone was ambiguous. Pampering, President Gu, have fun. Gu Ck's eyes darkened, and she took a step forward and pressed Chi Yao. There were dangers and warnings in his voice, and his expression was indefensible. Frivolous. Chi Yao smiled, as if she didn't feel the danger in Gu Mike's tone at all. She hooked her neck with one hand, and wrapped her waist with the other. With his cheeks sideways, Jiao Hao's face came to Gu Mike's ear, whispering like a close lover. Isn't Gu always ignorant of what finger cots are? Or, the technology is not good? Chi Yao pretended to be surprised, stepped back, and laughed again. My technique is also very good, and Mr. Gu can also enjoy it. Bad technique? Gu Zik's heart was cold. She pressed Chi Yao, a pressure in danger. Miss Shen wants to try. Chi Yao, like a fallen witch, ran her fingers across her shoulders and neck, and finally reached down, wiping the softness. I want to try. Everyone is an adult and has the right to be responsible for their own bodies. This is the end of the matter, and the following things have become smooth. After leaving the bathroom, the two of them never returned to the meal and went straight to their destination. Gu Ming is not a person who bows to others at will, and her attacking method is also exceptionally irritable, which is completely different from her abstinence appearance. Not only that, but several shameless orders were given. Touch here. Take it here. Chi Yao was tossed, and when it was over, there were still tears in the corners of her eyes, and her face was slightly red. The air was full of fragrant fragrance, and she lay on Gu Ming, gently sniffing the smell of her body. Fingers hooked a strand of her long hair, and curled her lips. President Gu has worked hard. Gu Ck was silent. She reached out and stroked her round buttocks. After the love, the relationship between the two people has changed slightly, and there is more ridicule in the words. Are you skilled? That's it. It was not crying over and over, pulling her finger to beg for mercy. As the golden crow, Chi Yao has no moral values and no sense of guilt. In addition, she is not a cheeky person with thighs. If it weren't for this character, with this face and means, to compete with her own sister, the rough Ho Yi would definitely not kill her. Yesterday, the two people ran into each other to do exercise, all because she wanted to eat Gu Ming. Now I have eaten to my mouth, and enjoyment is over. I naturally wear clothes and leave. Gu Ck didn't know where he was ridiculous yesterday, so he rolled onto the bed with the woman in a daze. I originally planned to give money to end the relationship when I was done, but I didn't expect to sleep particularly at ease. When she woke up, the woman ran faster than herself, leaving only the fragrance of a room in the room. Makes her look like the star who wants to be on top. Gu Mike was unhappy, and the action of putting on the clothes was a little faster. But as soon as I touched the button, I remembered the way the goblin pulled the corner of his clothes last night, stretched his hand up the skirt, and finally unbuttoned the button with his mouth. That Yanli face was still whirling in her head, and the nice and soft voice made her heart itch a little. Vixen! Gu CK snorted coldly, but his mood improved. Ji Minjia was nervous for a long time with the manager. She had always wanted to give Shen Ruiao medicine, but the glass of wine with the medicine was there forever, no one touched it. Not only that, even Shen Ruiao didn't come back after going to the toilet. Could it be that she got the trick? But she really only puts it in the wine glass, and she is very careful in other places. Thinking of what, Ji Minjia was startled. She remembered the glass of water in the waiting room. She had trained many times in the water glass in the practice room in order to be proficient in her own medicine. The powder of medicine was naturally mixed with the water. Could it be that Shen Ruiao drank it secretly? She thought for a long time, and finally called and asked the informant she had sent at the door of Gu Mike. Miss Shen really came out of Gu Ming's room. Have the picture been taken? The other side said that I took it, and I was sending it to her. After receiving the positive news, Ji Minjia's heart was slightly settled. She suppressed her emotions and continued to do facial care in the mirror. The precious lotions and creams were applied to the face, and I was happy that I had gotten Gu Ming's short materials. Shen Ruiao is just a to her, or a stranger who is not very familiar, there is no need to influence oneself for this person's emotions and feelings. When Qi Yao opened the door and entered, Ji Minjia was doing yoga in the room, and when she saw her coming in, she greeted her pretendingly. Sister, are you finally back? You didn't come back last night, I'm so worried about you. Ji Minjia reached out and grabbed Qi Yao's arm, because she was a little shorter than Qi Yao, so she was looking up at her right now. Those big fluttering eyes were full of sincerity and worry, and even some tears were squeezed out of the corners of his eyes. Qi Yao smiled unmovingly, with fatigue in her smile. She stroked Ji Minjia's hand, her voice softened. Minjia, I'm a little tired, let me rest. Ji Minjia was stunned for a moment, she let go of Qi Yao's movements and watched her walk towards her wardrobe. It was still that graceful face, still graceful posture, that is, the walking posture became weird. Ji Minjia has a ghost in her heart, and her expression is a little weaker, is my sister uncomfortable? Qi Yao thought to herself. Comfortable, very comfortable. Yesterday she was so cool that she pestered Gu Mike several times. If it weren't for coming back today to show off with you little fairy, she would simply want to drag Gu Mike a few more battles to prove the strength of the Golden Crow. She slowly turned her head and looked at the weakness in Ji Minjia's eyes suddenly exploding, and her whole body was full of unconcealable sadness and depression. Okay. Ji Minjia was startled, she didn't expect this incident to hurt Shen Ruiao so much. She stood there and watched Qi Yao enter the bathroom of the dormitory with her clean underwear. She was quite happy at first, but it didn't make any waves anymore. Shen Ruiao, was that Gu Mike beaten yesterday? Ji Minjia was sitting on the sofa, thinking of the rumors about Gu Ming that her sister had said before, and she gave a sigh in her heart. She didn't expect Shen Ruiao to be so injured. She always thought that a woman like Shen Ruiao should have been accustomed to such things a long time ago, so she wouldn't be so sad, right? Ji Minjia was also panicked, she secretly did something wrong herself, and couldn't help but change her attitude when facing Shen Ruiao. He stopped talking to her strangely, and even started to care about her. Qi Yao saw what she thought, and didn't break it. She acted like a woman of a good family who had been ruined by others. After taking a shower, she sat on the sofa with a dazed face, and she was filled with indescribable loss and emptiness. Beautiful eyes like obsidian also became dimmed and looked forward empty. In fact, what she was thinking in her heart was, "What do you have for lunch today?" This is the second day she came to the human world. Apart from the unpalatable sushi feast last night, she has never eaten any other food. What does human food taste like? Ji Minjiao gradually became a little uneasy. She slowly approached Qi Yao and asked softly, "Sister, why don't you blow your hair? If all human food is so unpalatable, what should she do?" "Sister, sister." Hearing Ji Minjiao's sudden increase in volume, Qi Yao recovered from her thoughts. She said ah and looked at Ji Minjiao in confusion. "What's happening? Got a brain problem?" Ji Minjiao swallowed the words in her throat, obediently picked up the hair dryer in hand, and whispered, "I'll help my sister blow her hair." "Good." Qi Yao did not refuse. Ji Minjiao let out a sigh of relief, and the hot wind in her hand opened, carefully venting the wind against Qi Yao's hair. Her hair volume is relatively thick, so when blowing her hair, she needs to use her hand to draw the silk, so as to ensure that her hair is completely dry. Just as Ji Minjiao stretched out her hand to caress Qi Yao's head, Qi Yao trembled like a cat with exploded hair. What followed was Qi Yao's slap. Snapped. The sound of the slap reverberated in the bedroom, and Qi Yao's nervous and frightened voice was accompanied by, "Don't come over. Don't touch me." Ji Minjiao, who is about to lose her temper. She suppressed her anger, and looked at Qi Yao, who was sitting on the ground a little embarrassed. Her apology still overwhelmed her anger. Her ears were burning and painful, but it was not easy for her to suffer. Shen Ruiao's behavior of not being touched or approaching is completely a stress response to a victim of being forced. Ji Minjiao comforted her softly, her anger was suppressed in her clear and tactful voice, and she whispered Qi Yao's name. "Shen Ruiao, Shen Ruiao. Sister, it's me, I'm Ji Minjiao." Qi Yao's godless eyes slowly focused, she glanced at Ji Minjiao. As if remembering what stupid thing he had just done, he stood up immediately. After the devastation of last night and the fear of today, the originally charming and gorgeous face has turned pale. She walked over quickly, and stretched out her slender white fingers to cover Ji Minjiao's red cheeks, her dark eyes filled with tears. "Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Ji Minjiao had to forgive her. "It's okay. Sit down, I'll blow your hair." Qi Yao looked at her pretending to be apologetic, but she was extremely happy in her heart. "Make you think about giving me medicine? Is it comfortable to be beaten?" She lowered her head, and the wet hair with low ends reflected a wet secret on the carpet, as if she was secretly crying because she had done something wrong. In the face of people who are depressed, Ji Minjiao's simple personality has to force her to comfort her carefully. Not only did she gently pat her shoulder, but even the corners of her mouth raised a perfect smile. "Never mind." Hearing this, Qi Yao seemed to be getting better, and she slowly sat on the sofa. Ji Minjiao's hand stroked her wet hair again. Qi Yao just trembled this time, and did not make a violent resistance action like before. She felt Qi Yao's mood gradually calmed down, and when she blowed her hair, she couldn't help but relax her intensity. White fingers interspersed in her hair, with strands reaching to the end of the hair, with extremely light intensity, as if stroking the precious black swan's haori. Shen Ruiao's hair is relatively thick, and her face is bright and generous. The route arranged by the company has always been an impactful Hong Kong-style image. Ji Minjiao played very slowly this time, and when she finished, Qi Yao was already asleep. Ji Minjiao hesitated for a moment, but took up a blanket and covered her. As soon as the fine plush blanket covered Qi Yao's body, she heard her sweating like a nightmare, her face was sickly white, and she shouted anxiously and sadly. "No, no! Don't! Go away, go!" Ji Minjiao's heart sank. Thinking of what Shen Ruiao had experienced yesterday, she patiently shook Qi Yao's hand and patted it lightly. "Don't be afraid, I am here." "What are you doing? Push me into the fire pit?" Qi Yao was disdainful, but what should be performed was the performance. After being clasped with her hands, the beautiful and jade-looking lady seemed to have found driftwood on the turbulent sea. Qi Yao shook Ji Minjiahu's hand tightly, shaking with fear. The black hair that had been blown dry pressed against her cheeks, sticking together in the cold sweat. Qi Yao trembled and began to lean into Ji Minjiahu's arms. Touching the warm embrace, Qi Yao sighed comfortably, and with the other hand, he naturally embraced Ji Minjiahu's slender waist. Ji Minjiahu froze and looked at Qi Yao, who was resting on her chest. Because of this close contact and intimate behavior, her heart beat 2 minutes faster. She wanted to pull her hand nervously, but was pinched tightly by Qi Yao. Hear her still babbling in a half-minute dream, Ji Minjiahu had to accept her mind. She glanced at Qi Yao complicatedly, thinking in her heart, forget it, just this time, who made this happen to her? As everyone knows, there are two. Qi Yao had already grasped the line of defense in her heart, and then became even more unscrupulous. Ji Minjiahu watched Shen Ruiao arrogantly in front of others, and soft and waxy in front of herself, and instantly realized the contrast and cuteness. Coupled with the guilt in her heart, she couldn't help but care more about Shen Ruiao. In the next few days, SUQ Umbrella Corporation discovered a surprising thing. Shen Ruiao, whose nose was up to the sky, actually got mixed up with Ji Minjiahu in the past few days. Ji Minjiahu looks simple but unique. One person with his wrist actually obeyed Shen Ruiao's words. "Drink water. Are you in a better mood now? Don't think so much, it's over. Everyone? How fat for, don't you two like to tear each other out?" "Yes." In front of Ji Minjiahu, Qi Yao played a trance-like image because of being abused and humiliated. Ji Minjiahu watched Shen Ruiao constantly offending the trainees of the same period according to her own set, like a firecracker in front of others, and a cat in front of herself, feeling uncomfortable in her heart. Everyone likes the feeling of being trusted, not to mention that this person is still a beauty with stunning looks and demeanor. She is fierce and upright, but when facing herself, she will temper her temper and show her attachment and trust appropriately as if she is her all and her support. Everyone wants to be special, and Ji Minjiahu is no exception. She was dizzy by Qi Yao's head, and Ji Minjiahu was enjoying the process of being held up secretly. In her heart, she couldn't help but hope that Shen Ruiao could be closer to herself and more attached to her. "Minjiahu, where are you?" A soft voice awakened Ji Minjiahu from her thoughts. She recovered and turned her head to look at Shen Ruiao, who was standing at the door. She is in good shape. Today she is wearing a long red velvet dress. Facing Ji Minjiahu's sight, Qi Yao is not shy, and generously shows a bright smile. In the smile, the aggressive face of Yan Li also came alive. Ji Minjiahu was in a daze and asked, "Where are you going today?" "I don't know, someone from the company asked me to go." Qi Yao honestly explained, "I heard it was a contract. Sign up." Ji Minjiahu's family is the shareholder of SUQ Umbrella, and her identity at the top of the company is no longer a secret. If it is really a contract, then it should be the first time to think of someone like Ji Minjiahu, who has a relationship and background. How could he think of Shen Ruiao? The ones in this circle are too obvious. "Are you sure?" "Yeah." Ji Minjiahu was worried. She stretched her hand over Shen Ruiao's arm and leaned weakly on her body, with a soft and gentle tone, "I haven't received a similar notice, just in case. What should you do if something bad happens to you?" When she said this, she almost immediately thought of the last meal. Ji Minjiahu would not participate in a meal like her own, but she hated Shen Ruiao at the time, so she just followed. The above person's intention is too obvious, that is, let the little girls who accompany dinner become victims. This time Shen Ruiao was named again, there must be nothing good. Qi Yao was stunned. She curled her index finger and scratched Ji Minjiahu's small nose. She laughed, no, this time it's said to be with other stars shoot promotional videos together. Who? Ji Minjiahu asked. Fang Lighting. Ji Minjiahu. Is her? Fang Lighting, Ji Minjiahu was impressed. Before entering SUQ Umbrella Company, she had seen it several times at her home party. Fang Lighting's name looks Wen Yoxianting, but she is actually a hot outsider and cold inside. Ji Minjiahu saw her standing at the top of the stairs with his own eyes, watching her brother fall down the stairs coldly, and when her brother did lose consciousness, her cold expression faded and changed to a worried look. The appearance of rushing downstairs and the feeling in front of his family and outsiders are completely different from what Ji Minjiahu saw with his own eyes. Ji Minjiahu herself had a good impression of her. She admired Fang Lighting's methods and admired that this person could pretend not to be dismantled for more than 10 years, the only time she might have happened to see her. But now, things are related to Shen Ruiao, and all of her good feelings and appreciation for Li Ting have disappeared. Fang Lighting? What good things can be associated with this person? Shen Ruiao is different. She is too innocent. If she were to be with Fang Lighting, she would definitely not have any bones left. Ji Minjiahu was anxious, but couldn't express too much, and those Li Ting's cognitions could not be directly expressed to Qi Yao. Because in her persona, she is like a white lotus, so how could she know these scumbags? How did you know it? Qi Yao smiled, feeling cold in her heart. The reason why her body in this world has been so miserable, apart from Ji Minjiahu's slamming push, Fang Lighting also had an idea. Ji Minjiahu prescribed the medicine, and Shen Ruiao and Gu Ck failed in this circle. Fang Lighting stretched out her hand to Shen Ruiao, and put all the anger of failure and the resentment that could not be expressed in the piece on Shen Ruiao. The person who raped Shen Ruiao was found by Fang Lighting, and then the person who deliberately reported that Shen Ruiao was pregnant with malice was also Fang Lighting. This person made Qi Yao very annoyed. He obviously didn't know the original owner, nor had any communication with him. Just because he has a nepotism with Ji Minjiahu, he just has no power and is the most suitable target for bullying. Fang Lighting, who understood this, simply used evil to crush Shen Ruiao. How miserable a person is tortured is not important to Fang Lighting. She is just enjoying the process of others being crushed by her and crushed by life without being able to resist. Simply neurotic. What is even more ironic is that these two extremely tactical people, Ji Minjiahu, Fang Lighting, it happens to be the central force of this world. Not only did the future starship be great, the two of them were also locked up indirectly, and they grew old in love. The wish of her original owner is to hope that these two people will pay the price for everything they have done. Qi Yao showed a trusting smile at Ji Minjiahu, the stars in those eyes were about to overflow, and the whole person was full of vivid breath. Minjiahu, if I sign, I will take you to eat delicious food. Just don't know if you can stand this wholehearted trust? Ji Minjiahu's body froze for a moment, she smiled reluctantly, nodded and said, okay. She gritted her teeth in her heart, and felt more guilty for Qi Yao. Ji Minjiahu felt that his design had started first, which led to the decision-makers in the upper part of the company to follow the taste of Shen Ruiao. Looking at her happy smile now, Ji Minjiahu was bitter and confused. As the two people spend more time together, she has become accustomed to Qi Yao's trust in herself and the way the two get along. Her jealousy and disdain for Qi Yao gradually changed under Qi Yao's intentional guidance. Qi Yao's current identity is no longer a bedtimer, it means more of a friend, and there are even some inexplicable emotions. Under such circumstances, should she speak out? If she doesn't say anything, will Shen Ruiao fall into the mouth of a tiger today? Ji Minjiahu was anxious. At this moment, Qi Yao was looking left and right in the mirror, and she chose a pair of high heels with black and red soles. The whole person was full of vitality. At this moment, the sunlight from the window came through, spreading on Qi Yao's side face, and the face was coated with gilt sunlight. She stood by the window, in the form of a god. Ji Minjiao was in a daze, and the heart that hadn't beaten violently for a long time began to beat at a different frequency than usual. She watched Qi Yao stretch out her hand and took her own hand, and between her hands, a burst of light like a tiny electric current quickly climbed to her brain. Numb. I am leaving. Yet. Ji Minjiao lowered her eyes, her long curly eyelashes trembling slightly. Yao, I will pick you up at night. Okay. Qi Yao didn't have any opinion, she was like a straight daughter of steel, not only did not feel the intimacy and state of Ji Minjiao's words. Instead, he leaned forward and quickly dropped a kiss on Ji Minjiao's cheek. The traces of the red lipstick fell on Ji Minjiao's white cheeks. The moment his lips touched his cheeks, Ji Minjiao also laughed. She looked at Qi Yao's back leaving, her heart he strengthened his mind. No, she can't say. If she said it, she would indirectly admit that the person who administered Shen Ruiao last time was herself. Ji Minjiao stretched out her hand and stroked her chest, her banging heartbeat still reminding her of what had just happened. It doesn't matter, she doesn't dislike Shen Ruiao. These are just minor problems. After today, as long as she protects Shen Ruiao and hides this secret, there will be no surprises. How can some people, after hurting others, still beg for concealment from their own perspective and want the best? Qi Yao was smirked by Ji Minjiao. She didn't expect how normal the heroine of this world was, but this mode of thinking was too selfish. Today's signing is true. Shen Ruiao's outstanding appearance is one of the best among trainees. The temperament of the whole body has undergone a qualitative change after Qi Yao's upper body. Seeing her overly gorgeous and charming face, people no longer think of peach and lace, but more of a kind of spontaneous, not to be small. The aura of staring. This cooperation is very simple, it is to shoot a group of magazines with fang lighting. Qi Yao deliberately revealed in front of Ji Minjiao that she wanted to gain further her guilt and conflict with fang lighting. Today's magazine needs to be taken outdoors, and all irrelevant personnel on the shooting scene are emptied. In the entertainment industry, it is only a small transparency. If you are rashly late, it will definitely cause dissatisfaction among the staff. So Qi Yao advanced half an hour, sitting on the sun lounger on one side, waiting for the people to arrive. After another 20 minutes passed, the protagonist arrived late and walked into the shooting scene with an apologetic smile. Sorry, the last announcement caught up with the reporter's interview and traffic jam, so I came a bit late. Fang Lighting apologized and sincerely apologized. The two assistants on one side also followed her and walked over and put ice on their hands. Coffee and milk tea are placed on the table. As compensation, please drink water. Fang Lighting said slowly, her eyes swept over the people present, and there was a lot of mockery in her heart. Being late was intentional. She didn't like these compliments, and she knew that there would be new people joining the shooting venue today, so she was deliberately disarming her. In her heart, she enjoys the way others look up at her, and she likes to humiliate others without leaving a trace. It doesn't matter, it's fine if Sister Fang is here. The photographer is a big name in Country Z. She has worked with Fang Lighting twice before, and she understands that Fang Lighting is not a face-shaking person, so she took the initiative to make it happen. Ice coming from the water, the staff had a glass in hand, and everyone was thanking Fang Lighting for the little gift. Jiaozuo and disgust, which had been waiting for a long time, were diluted a lot. Give a slap to a sweet date. Qi Yao understood in her heart, she stood up obediently, and walked to Fang Lighting with the company's temporary agent. Sister Fang, hello, I am the artist who is working with you today. Qi Yao said, raising her eyes lightly, and showing a look of expectation and admiration towards Fang Lighting. I have liked you for a long time, and it is my honor to work with you. Fang Lighting turned her head when she heard the voice. She was very angry, and her whole body revealed a gentle and elegant temperament. Standing in front of Qi Yao, she was like an orchid essence that had become a fairy, quiet and elegant. If Qi Yao hadn't known this person's urinary a long time ago, she would have been deceived by this face. Fang Lighting looked at Qi Yao, with a hint of deep meaning in her eyes. "Hello there." She gently shook Qi Yao's hand and comforted her softly, "It's the first time to shoot today. Don't worry if you can't shoot well, I'll be with you." Qi Yao went around several times in this sentence, showing a flattered and well-behaved expression, nodded and said, "Okay, thank you Sister Fang. The crew is here, and the next step is to shoot." As if to verify Fang Lighting's words, the first shooting, Qi Yao made frequent mistakes in the shooting. What camera position was not accurate, the eyes were not optimistic, the posture was wrong, the intimacy was not enough, etc., she all committed a crime. Before Fang Lighting could comfort her patiently and make a gentle and generous expression, she was already a little impatient now. The weather is so hot and the sun is poisonous, Qi Yao makes mistakes over and over again, and she has to accompany her over and over again. Fang Lighting sneered, secretly mocking Qi Yao as an idiot. The sweat on her forehead and back had begun to spill out, and she was so hot that she almost failed to manage her facial expressions. Qi Yao doesn't care what Fang Lighting thinks. She is the golden crow and the incarnation of the sun. For others, the harsh weather is simply the best enjoyment for Qi Yao. While delaying the time to enjoy the sun, she felt the anger that Fang Lighting was about to endure, and laughed secretly in her heart. "Don't worry, you see the angle." Fang Lighting smiled reluctantly. The sun was already hanging in the sky at the moment. The weather in July and August was the most poisonous. She looked at the front camera and her eyes had begun to dizzy. "It's going to be heat stroke." Qi Yao thought of gloating. As if to confirm this point of view, stand beside her Fang Lighting's legs immediately softened, and she was about to fall down. Qi Yao stretched out her hand to embrace her waist, supported her with strength, her face was nervous. "Senior. Senior. What's wrong with you? You deserve it." "Fuck, you didn't kill it yet?" Fang Lighting reluctantly opened her eyes in order to maintain the personality, and it was Qi Yao's crying face. Probably it was a beauty crit, and Qi Yao's acting skills were so good, she couldn't feel annoying in her heart. "I'm fine, don't cry." Fang Lighting couldn't help saying. After her speaking, he was stunned. "Cao, it's obvious that she is hurting herself, so how come she wants to comfort her on the other hand?" In the information age, entertainment media and newspapers generally do simple sorting based on the information at hand, and the authenticity of the content has never been within their consideration. Only the flow rate and the so-called heat are required. Some of the staff took pictures of Fang Lighting's blushing and weak face and sent them to reporters and marketing accounts. Afterwards, the trivial matter of Fang Lighting's heat stroke began to circulate on Weibo hot searches in less than an hour. Qi Yao made frequent mistakes during filming, and Fang Lighting suffered heat stroke. As a starlet, she was naturally ordered by the company to sit on the bench. She stood nervously at the end that was not sheltered by the umbrella, her slender white hands tightly gripping the skirt in an uneasy manner, and her beautiful black eyes were filled with confusion and a little panic. She stood on tiptoe, tried to look at where Fang Lighting was, and successfully played a person who felt guilty for doing something wrong. Fang Lighting's agent and assistant let her drink the glucose oral liquid, and did some cooling work for 4 weeks, which allowed Fang Lighting to recover from heat stroke, dizziness and chest tightness. She lay on the bench and saw Qi Yao at a glance through the many people surrounding her. Shen Ruiao was like a scared little rabbit, and immediately looked away from her after facing each other. Then he looked at her anxiously, her dark eyes filled with worry and discomfort, looking pitiful and sincere. Fang Lighting sneered in her heart, "Is this kind of idiot still entering the entertainment circle? I am afraid that it is not yet my turn to fire, and I will offend everyone around me." She didn't bother to talk to Qi Yao. According to her original character, the person who bullied her in such a disguised form should be the same as herself, standing under the sun and feeling the hot and poisonous roast, and then suffocating from heat stroke. But she can't do this. There are too many people. If she acts aggressively or reveals her original true thoughts, she will definitely receive a group of surprised eyes. Fang Lighting coughed, looked at Qi Yao, and shook her hand gently. Come on, I'm fine. Hearing her say this, the agent around me was upset. She is Fang Lighting's agent, and Fang Lighting's announcement is linked to her salary income. This time, Fang Lighting suffered heat stroke, and she didn't even want to attend the final night banquet. What an opportunity is that! It was all ruined by the little artist of the umbrella company. The agent glanced at Qi Yao up and down, then sneered, "Go away, it's an eye-catching thing." Here broker in terms of human beings, Qi Yao's face became paler and paler. She nodded obediently, said nothing, and withdrew her steps, standing still again. He looks like a disobedient student who was physically punished by the teacher. In the eyes of others, Qi Yao had already begun to have heat stroke because of her pale and bloodless face because she had been basking in the sun. Although sympathetic to this little artist, no one dared to help. After all, in the entertainment industry, whoever is popular has weight. You don't have any abilities. Why can you help you? In fact, Qi Yao was not so miserable. Because she can continue to enjoy her sun bath, she is happy in her heart. She even hoped to stay here until the end of the group, so that she could return directly to the brokerage company. Fang Lighting didn't expect Qi Yao to be so obedient, because according to her appearance and performance in the venue, she should be a very strong and obvious person. Standing in the distance at the moment, with a face full of loss and self-blame, it really made Fang Lighting interested. After drinking glucose, the color of Fang Lighting's lips slowly returned to red. She allowed Qi Yao to stand there for a long time, only then she got up from the bench in a guilty manner and asked to continue filming. Fang Lighting is really dedicated. I have a really good temper, and I don't say anything if I get a heat stroke. Hey, this kind of person deserves her fire. Qi Yao sneered in her heart when she heard the staff's discussion. Thinking of Fang Lighting's double-faced appearance, a faint blue was printed in front of her eyes. Fang Lighting came to her. Qi Yao raised her eyes and looked at Fang Lighting incredulously, her dim eyes suddenly lit up. It is like a lost traveler who sees the light of the future, full of hope and expectation. Predecessor, senior. It may be that Qi Yao's forehead overflowed with some sweat due to prolonged exposure to the sun. The sweat and the hair scattered between the forehead were glued together, and when they were attached to the face, they were embarrassingly beautiful. That face is too lethal. Xiao itself is a golden crow, so after being exposed to the sun for a long time, not only did she not have the sour smell of sweating like ordinary people, but it was still refreshing and elegant. Fang Lighting glanced at her shiny eyes, the emotions in her eyes were turbulent and enthusiastic. As if Fang Lighting is a very important treasure to her, all emotions come for her. Fang Lighting. Fuck. This fucking. Fang Lighting arrives. The words that were about to indulge in her were taken back abruptly, and she coughed unnaturally. I told myself that it was not that I didn't say it, but that this person was too stupid and couldn't understand it. It's better not to waste your words. Although thinking so, the tips of Fang Lighting's ears turned red. Qi Yao stretched out her hand to grab the hem of Fang Lighting's clothes, but then thought that she was not very clean now, and she was already sweating, and quickly retracted. He looked at her panic and whispered, "Senior, are you all right?" Fang Lighting smiled, with a blue temperament, "It's okay, don't stand here anymore." "Okay." Qi Yao nodded, but did not move under her feet. Fang Lighting looked at her, her brain heated up, "Are you still shooting?" After speaking, I wished to slap my own mouth. What? She forgot the purpose of coming to Qi Yao? She wanted to let Qi Yao take the initiative to withdraw from this filming by retreating for progress, and to hold back her own heat stroke. How? When she asked these words, she threw the initiative to Qi Yao. Abruptly asked her if she wanted to continue, instead of "I don't want to shoot with you anymore." Fang Lighting regretted, the gentle smile on her face almost froze. Qi Yao didn't give her a chance to go back. Knowing that she couldn't stand the look in her hopeful eyes, she just looked at it like this. With persistent efforts, she raised her head, revealing the smooth lines and fair skin like a swan neck. A faint pink layer floats on the white skin. Although it is known that it is a trace left by the sun, it makes people think of the redness afterwards. Really? Can I? Water gleamed in those ink-colored eyes, and there was a hint of excitement. Don't you hate me, senior? Fang lighting. With so many people around, what can she say? She can only say, it's okay. Qi Yao's eyes became brighter, and she stretched out her hands again. This time she did not hesitate as much as last time, and directly grabbed Fang Lighting's arm. Fang Lighting had a heat stroke before. After she eased off, the agent and the assistant on the set used ice cubes wrapped in a towel to help her do cold compresses in order to cool her down. When Qi Yao's hand shook her arm, Fang Lighting's heart palpitated. Her hands are very hot and hot. The moment she touched her skin, Fang Lighting felt her heat spread through her arms. Obviously it is hot summer, such a hot palm is a very common thing, but she still has a different feeling in her heart. Qi Yao seemed to feel her impoliteness, and she quickly withdrew her hand again, revealing a bit of restraint and unwilling admiration. Senior, thank you. Fang Lighting turned her head unnaturally. Hurry up and start. With this unnaturalness, Fang Lighting seemed to see her liking for herself through Qi Yao's eyes, and her mood became more subtle now. Qi Yao's image in her heart has changed from a stupid little artist to a little cute artist who has a crush on me. Fang Lighting's willingness to let Qi Yao continue to shoot shocked a group of people's jaws. Everyone knows that although the popular little flower Fang Lighting is very gentle, the whole person is wrapped in an elegant temperament. In fact, everyone who works with her knows that she is a person who does not offend me, and I do not offend others. If someone bullied her, or provoked her, Fang Lighting won't save face no matter how good her temper is. But save face now. Still a little artist. Fang Lighting's agent couldn't help but look at Qi Yao more, but she didn't understand what this person had in comparison with others. The people at SUQ Umbrella Corporation were surprised and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Today's cooperation projects with Fang Lighting are difficult to find, and the cooperation projects in the entertainment industry are exquisite. If you send a big star, it will directly overwhelm the opponent's limelight, so you can only send interns to play. The company also thought Qi Yao was smart and good-looking, and gave Qi Yao this position after several considerations. The executives have already written down what happened at the shooting site. Offending Fang Lighting is equivalent to offending the Fang family. No matter how talented people are, it will be difficult to follow in the entertainment industry. The executives were preparing to wait for Qi Yao to return to the company, and they took advantage of the limelight to terminate the contract with her, but they didn't expect a turnaround. However, this is a good thing for Umbrella. Because of Fang Lighting's lessons from heat stroke, the cooling equipment was quickly moved to the shooting site. Qi Yao still couldn't figure out where the shooting was, but this time he could clearly see the difference in atmosphere between the two people. Before, Fang Lighting just verbally comforted her and said gently it's okay, but now she actually started the teaching mode, constantly telling Qi Yao how to adjust her feet and body. It's simply unheard of. Fang Lighting's agent's jaw dropped in shock. At the same time, the staff present were shocked. But they soon figured out that Fang Lighting must be so good-tempered and she didn't want to have heat stroke again, so she taught Qi Yao's. However, only Fang Lighting knew the specific reasons. Qi Yao stopped being a demon, and Fang Lighting cooperated surprisingly, so the recording ended soon. Xiao didn't rush to ask for Fang Lighting's contact information, because she knew very well, Fang Lighting was the center of the world, and so was Ji Minjiu. When she is by Ji Minjiu's side, there will always be a chance to meet Fang Lighting. Qi Yao followed the executives downstairs, and the executives all along the way said that she was lucky, and she didn't know what luck she had to get so bad. Qi Yao just nodded in a muted manner, his face full of exhaustion and loss. Wearing a very bright red dress did not make her look very energetic. The aggrieved and sad look, on the contrary, looks like a puppy abandoned by others. This kind of scene falls into the eyes of two people and it feels different. Standing outside the shooting location, Ji Minjiu ran over as soon as she saw Qi Yao. Looking at Qi Yao's exhausted state, Ji Minjiu was about to explode on the spot. Qi Yao must be bullied by Fang Lighting. I knew that Fang Lighting was not a thing, but I didn't expect her to be so excessive. And Fang Lighting, who happened to be downstairs a step later, happened to see Qi Yao's dim eyes, and the loss and sadness in her eyes almost overflowed. Like me so much? Fang Lighting was a little funny, she couldn't help but stand in the distance and looked at Qi Yao again, the smile on the corner of her mouth was a little bit real. As soon as Ji Minjiu took Qi Yao's arm, she felt the sight of others. She turned her head abruptly and looked at Fang Lighting who was standing beside them, with a gloomy expression in her always weak expression. Fang Lighting's smile narrowed her mouth, and she smirked as she watched Ji Minjiu and Qi Yao's intimate posture. Qi Yao at the moment, I'm so hungry, can I eat human food again when I go back? Xiao stayed at Suq Umbrella Flower Company for another week. During this week, she didn't know what the company had committed, so she asked her to help shoot the announcement after 3 days. Coincidentally, it happened that the subject was Fang Lighting again. Looking at the woman who was rated as the most beautiful Weibo, Fang Lighting is pretty, and she has a gentle charm. It is also because of this face and her temperament that shortly after her debut, she was selected by a forum as the #1 wife of the year who most want to marry home. But the inside of this man is disgusting and filthy, which makes people disgusting. Qi Yao thought of 10,000 ways to make Fang Lighting regret bullying herself, but in the end it only turned into a smile of admiration and expectation. The photogenic effect of that naturally good face and figure is particularly outstanding, and after Fang Lighting's intentional or unintentional guidance these days, Qi Yao's expressiveness in front of the camera has also begun to rise. Fang Lighting's agent always feels something is wrong. She was asked by Fang Lighting to let Xiao join the filming crew again. Looking at the sneer and mocking expression on her face, she thought Xiao, the newcomer, would be run over by Fang Lighting and was bullied, but she did not expect the situation again and again. Reverse. Fang Lighting, who said in front of her that she would teach Qi Yao a lesson, turned around and handed Qi Yao a bottle of iced mineral water. Fang Lighting, who had said that she was going to bully her for crying, turned around and asked Qi Yao to eat the cake. Broker. She pushed her glasses calmly and twisted her body. She believed Fang Lighting again, she was a pig. Fang Lighting kept thinking about Qi Yao until she was lying in bed at night. She felt that she was ill. She was just an 18th line, and she gave way over and over again. But every time you want to bully her, you will see her admiration and admiration. If you are bullied, there will be an expression of disbelief and disappointment on that face, right? Fang Lighting has never been so entangled. Just like her status in the Fang family, she has always been the darling of the family, and everyone will not ask her to do too much, and will not force her to do things. In this way, it means that others have no expectations of her. Without expectations, where is the motivation? Fang Lighting's motivation is hatred and power. She hopes to let her stepmother and family maggots die, so as to gain higher power. As for what will power and family do after they hold their hands? She does not know. But that's it, Qi Yao gave her expectations. Like fans, but it seems more passionate and simple than fans. It seems that she hopes that she will be better, and that she can respond to herself. That kind of passionate love and bright love gave her some compassion. Fang Lighting reached out and pressed her forehead, forcing herself to stop thinking about Qi Yao. It seems that it is better to stay away. She thinks. Fang Lighting didn't sleep well, but Qi Yao eats well and sleeps in the same place. Ji Minjiu didn't know what irritation she had received recently, and she disappeared from her dormitory directly. In other words, she has not seen each other for 4 days. Without Ji Minjiao by her side, Qi Yao began to release herself. She kept Animal World in the bedroom, and looked at the introduction of the animal's temperament inside, marveling for a while. Before she finished watching the spider's reproduction and living, there was a movement of changing shoes at the door. Qi Yao immediately turned off the phone, pulled the red sling under her shoulder, and stretched out her hand to pull out a few strands of the tied hair. She picked up the phone and looked at the black screen. Through the screen, she saw a pale, depressed, and even a little decadent woman. It's great, she looks like a woman with unsatisfactory life. Qi Yao put the phone on her feet, bent her legs around her knees, and looked straight at Ji Minjiao's bed. After acting like this for 2 or 3 minutes, the door opened. Suq Umbrella Company originally had shares invested by Ji's family, and she would be fine if she didn't come back a day or 2. Ji Minjiao was thinking about coming back yesterday, but her mother said that her family finally got together and had a rest for 1 night before leaving. She could not refuse, so she could only stay overnight. Early this morning, when Ji Minjiao thought about Qi Yao in the dormitory, she immediately packed her luggage and prepared a lot of imported snacks and small objects, ready to surprise Qi Yao. "Sister, I'm back." As Ji Minjiao said, she dragged in the suitcase at the door, and the gift in her hand was also placed on the table at the door of the bedroom. When she finished, she realized that there was no expected response. Ji Minjiao was stunned for a moment, walked into the bedroom, and looked at it. "Sister." Ji Minjiao's smile froze on her face. Shen Ruiao, who has always been as bright as a rose, looked at the bed opposite her as if she was ill. Yeli's face was only haggard and pale, her hands around her knees trembled slightly, and her whole body sank in extreme fear. Anyone with eyes can see that Shen Ruiao's spirit is not right. Ji Minjiao hurriedly stepped forward, and whispered Qi Yao softly. "Sister, sister." After 2 sounds, Qi Yao seemed to return to her senses. Ai looked at Ji Minjiao, her dark eyes lit up the moment she saw her, and her whole person became different from before. "Minjiao, you're back." She was so bored that she gathered in the dormitory alone, and she was so bored to see the animal world to understand common animals. Ji Minjiao is back well, can give her some takeaways that don't have to pay, and can play scheming with her. No one understands Ji Minjiao's current mood. The moment she saw Shen Ruiao with expectation and excitement, she felt like she was splashed with cold water, cold and uncomfortable, and she felt uncomfortable with her whole body. Ji Minjiao was in a complicated mood. Looking at Shen Ruiao, who was looking at her recovery, there were countless attachments in those hopeful and wounded eyes. In Ji Minjiao's eyes, Shen Ruiao, who was as enthusiastic as a fire, lost her light because of her sadness and her departure. She is very important in Shen Ruiao's heart. This thought flashed by, and the novel feeling made her mentally subtle and addicted to it, and there was a voice in her heart that could not help but hope to continue. Qi Yao softened her voice affectionately, and frowned sadly, "I miss you." She looked like she had experienced something, and her whole person seemed very fragile. What happened? Ji Minjiao thought. As soon as she turned her gaze to Qi Yao, she saw her looking at her eagerly, so pitiful. Reminiscent of her current state of mind, Ji Minjiao could only swallow the words she asked for. After comforting Qi Yao softly, Ji Minjiao took out her mobile phone. "Didn't you eat?" Qi Yao said something and didn't eat. "I didn't eat it today, but I ate a lot yesterday. But it's because I didn't eat it today, that's why my face can be so pale, otherwise it's really not easy to fool." "Let me order," Ji Minjiao reported the name of the dish. "Can it?" "Qi Yao, I listen to you." She didn't know what was delicious, what if it didn't taste good when she came back. Alas, she really needs Ji Minjiao very much, at least when Ji Minjiao comes back, the food will really be solved. Qi Yao thought, feeling better, and smiled at Ji Minjiao again. Looking at her reluctantly smiling at herself, Ji Minjiao felt a little bit more guilty in her heart. Taking advantage of the time when he went out to get the takeaway and phoned, Ji Minjiao went out and called the company manager, asked about the recent courses, and then asked Shen Ruiao. Umbrella Flower Company has long been accustomed to her asking, and told Ji Minjiao what she knew. And after learning that Qi Yao and Fang Lighting went to shoot the cover yesterday, Ji Minjiao's mouth completely collapsed. The person in charge of Umbrella Flower Company said that Shen Ruiao did a good job yesterday and was very well taught by Fang Lighting's love. This sounded no problem, but thinking of Fang Lighting's character, Ji Minjiao did not believe that she did not bully Shen Ruiao. What's more, the state of Shen Ruiao today is completely different from the state of her yesterday in the manager's mouth. If it weren't for what had happened, how could it have changed so much? Ji Minjiao squinted her eyes, her always delicate face showing a trace of sullenness. After standing outside for 10 minutes, she slowly walked back to the bedroom until the takeaway arrived. "Let's eat!" Ji Minjiao shouted, ready to put things on the table. "I walked in before because I was worried about Shen Ruiao, so I didn't take a closer look. Now I stood up and suddenly found that the bedroom was in a mess. In the living room, there are snack packaging bags that have been eaten. The individually packaged snacks that have not been eaten are scattered all over the table. There are broken lipsticks and socks on the floor. The washed and put away clothes are clearly folded up, but they are placed on the sofa in the living room. At this moment, they have fallen to the floor or been wrinkled together by people sitting on the sofa over time. There is only one word in the bedroom: chaos." Ji Minjiao took a breath, almost unable to control her emotions. "What happened?" Qi Yao answered. She looked around quickly and felt Ji Minjiao's stiffness. Xiao didn't know when to reach out and remove the rubber bands from her hair. At this moment, her black and bright curls were scattered on her smooth shoulders. Wearing a red silk pajamas with a sling, she had a natural sense of and charm, although her face was pale. But can't resist her style and charm. Qi Yao looked at Ji Minjiao and apologized softly. "Yes, I'm sorry, Minjiao. I'm in a bad mood these days, and the living room is a little messy. I will clean up now." Ji Minjiao was stunned by her appearance, and she knew Qi Yao's mental state was not good, and her anger and depression in her heart were wiped out in a moment. She had no choice but to put down the shelf, feeling helpless, and said softly on her face, "Let me do it. Is this not so good?" Qi Yao started to bite, arrogantly, "I want to help too, can I help you?" Ji Minjiao herself is clearly a high-ranking White Lotus, but she didn't realize that she was acting when she met Qi Yao. She watched Qi Yao stand there again and felt bad, and waved her hand. "Sit there to eat, I'll come." Qi Yao sitting down without any psychological burden, holding a bowl in one hand and vegetables in the other, while exclaiming delicious food in his heart, he still comforted and praised Ji Minjiao for being capable. At this moment, Ji Minjiao has collapsed the White Lotus character and is working hard to clean up the living room. After Xia Miaoan finished eating at noon, she was notified by the executives. After knowing that she was going to participate in variety shows with Shen Ruiao and Ji Minjiao, she immediately planned to have a good relationship with Ji Minjiao, so that she could think of a way with her and blog. After making up his mind, Xia Miaoan came to the two-person dormitory. Ben was about to knock on the door, but found that the door opened directly. Xia Miaoan yelled twice at the door and no one answered, then walked inside. "Minjiao, Ming." The scene in front of her gave her a puzzled expression. Why is the daughter of the Umbrella Flower investment boss helping Shen Ruiao tidy up the house? Why does Shen Ruiao have such an expression on her face? Why did Ji Minjiao clean up so vigorously? Why? Did she not wake up? Against the gazes of the two people, Xia Miaoan nodded seriously, and took a step back. "Excuse me." After speaking, she hurriedly withdrew from the fantasy room. Speaking of this, of course, we can't continue to discuss in depth. Gu Zik was a whim to relieve the old dream with Qi Yao. It didn't make sense to see the other party right now, so he returned to his indifferent and reserved appearance, and nodded slowly. Can. After speaking, she closed her eyes, as if she didn't want to talk anymore. Chi Yao thought she was unhappy because she was shook her face by herself, and she was amused. This Gu Mike seemed to be quite mature and stable, and he threw it in front of him with this word omitted reply, feeling a little angry. Chi Yao consciously didn't want to do it with her now, and it was not a good time to linger on the mattress, so she naturally wanted to refuse. What's more, whether it's work or love, both sides of the game must be evenly matched to make the story more interesting. If she is soft to Gu Mink at this moment, then Gu Mink will naturally not take her seriously next time. The fishing in her mind is naturally different from ordinary fishing. Fishing is to put the bait and throw it down, and the fish will pull up after they eat it. But when she fished, she kept changing the taste and put the bait, each time she only gave a little bit, she kept on attracting and lure, but never fed the fish. One day, even if you don't put bait on the hook, the fish will be like Zhang Taiwang fishing, the one who wishes will be hooked. And now, Gu Mink, Ji Minjiu, and Fang Lighting are all the fish she is going to hook. The fish feed naturally has to be added slowly, and the tempting taste naturally extends back, so that the fish can take the bait willingly. Chi Yao didn't care about Mink either, neither actively speaking nor provoking. She picked up the phone and started to send a message to Ji Minjiu, staring at the screen with her eyes looking very serious. Gu Simka, who was sitting next to her, looked as if she was playing with her mobile phone without being affected. His face became cold, and he whispered to the Frantro driver, "Send Miss Shen back." This. Not spoiled? He looks like the next to Gu Mike, dryly sharing the worries for the queen above, and even worried about the relationship between the queen and his new favorite concubine. Secretary Yang grimaced. He looked at Gu Mike, and then at Shen Ruiao, who was looking up at him after hearing the words. He didn't know what to say for a while, so he could only use his eyes to hint frantically, hoping Shen Ruiao could coax Mr. Gu. But how could Chi Yao? She blinked and put her hand on the front seat of the car. She was puzzled for a moment, as if she didn't understand Secretary Yang. Why this? Then she suddenly realized, with a smile on her face, Secretary Yang sent me back to Umbrella's artist's bedroom, in Yinchuan apartment. She treated it differently, and interpreted Secretary Yang's gaze as asking where her home is. As soon as I said it, the air seemed to freeze. Chi Yao raised her eyes with a smile, and looked at each other with Secretary Yang through the rear-view mirror. Secretary Yang looked back as if he had been stabbed by a needle. Gu Ck looked forward, not knowing what he was thinking. There was no sadness and joy in those crow-colored eyes. The whole carriage became extremely quiet with the silence of the two people, and the air flowed with a faint fragrance of tea. Fortunately, the driver knew it was embarrassing, and soon after getting on the viaduct, he arrived at Chi Yao's bedroom. Secretary Yang in the front row got out of the car and diligently opened the rear door for Chi Yao. The gentleman's demeanor appeared just right. Chi Yao raised her long legs and got out of the car, with an elegant and charming posture. As she stepped out of the car door, she seemed to be able to feel Gu Mike's sight, and she turned her head to reveal a flamboyant and gorgeous face. Chi Yao held the car door with one hand and waved to Gu Mike with the other, smiling delicately on her delicate face. "Goodbye, Gu President." After saying this, she closed the car door neatly, and the car window blocked Gu Mike's sight. It was precisely because of her behavior that she didn't see Gu Mink staring at her like a torch. Gu Mink's fingers squeezed unconsciously, her delicate frowns frowned, and she stretched out after a while. "President Gu?" Secretary Yang asked cautiously. "Let's go." Gu Zik looked out the car window, because it was already late, and the night scene outside flashed brightly through the car window. Secretary Yang took a peek, only to see the boss's face in the neon lights and the expressionless face. He still didn't understand Gu Zong's thoughts. Secretary Yang was under a little psychological pressure, so he silently looked away and looked at the front intently. Waiting for the traffic lights, Gu Mike saw a couple on the zebra crossing. The tall girl stretched out her hand to press the smaller girl, and the two crossed the road with a smile. The milk tea was changed back and forth in the hands of the two people. From the appearance of the clothes, the two people were not very wealthy, but the strange thing was that both their state and mood looked particularly good. Gu Ck somehow thought of Shen Ruiao who had just got off the bus. Her first impression of Shen Ruiao was wonderful. When others saw her, they were trembling, as if facing a manating beast. In order to survive, they had to treat their best side, show it off. It is harmless and weak to pray for her pity or love, in order to survive better. Perhaps it was the two experiences of acting on the spot in the early years, which made others think that Mr. Gu is a woman who likes the White Lotus type, and what is presented to her is either weak or harmless. At first, Gu Ming still felt fresh, but later became more and more dull. In addition, the work is getting busier and busy. Although some people are constantly stuffing women, Gu Mike basically focuses on the company's important tasks, and never gives more glances. But Shen Ruiao is not like this. As if to understand the most secret stimulus in her heart, she was full of seductive, hot, and depraved devilishness. The light that flashed when those black eyes saw her was like a fox that found its prey. Although the matter of being hunted as prey made Gu Mike very bad in senses, her behavior in the back always seemed like a fallen demon seducing the saint into hell. Shen Ruiao found herself hiding under the cold skin, and she became more bold after teasing. The clouds came and went, the sheets and quilt soaked into the liquid that the two people merged, but they still refused to stop. Food doesn't know the taste, and desire is hard to fill. Gu Ck closed his eyes, covering the dim light in his eyes. Why on a whim? Why like? It may be that Shen Ruiao is too devilish, like a fallen witch who has been infected with a demon, a little bit of her nerves are scattered. It may also be that she has discovered her disguise, she has seen herself more crazier under her skin. Gu Mike didn't think about the rejection today, but when she saw her expression when she left, she knew that she was being hooked. Knowing that this was her deliberate method, Gu Ming still had a feeling that she couldn't help it. As soon as Xiao returned to the bedroom, Ji Minjiao was glued to her. While asking Xiao about Xiao's itinerary today, she told Xiao about her and Xiao's participation in the National Beautiful Girl variety show. The words were a little more active. Xiao pretended to be surprised, as if she had only realized that Ji Minjiao had participated in a variety show with her. Minjiao, you are so kind to me. Xiao's voice choked slightly, I never thought that you would be so good to me, and you gave me such a chance. Look at this pitiful look, if Secretary Yang was there, he would be horrified at this moment. After all, this sister was still in Gu's car half an hour ago, talking to President Gu about challenging people's lower limit, and even teased with her underwear in her hand. The innocent and helpless look at the moment is the same as the one in that car, the which is like two people. Qi Yao's words are extremely soft, and the whole person throws away the sharp thorns, leaving only weakness and trust, and a bright moon is hung on her mouth. Ji Minjiao is happier, and the whole person becomes more gentle. Sister, don't worry, you will be on the show with me this time, and I will take good care of you. Ji Minjiao feels guilty in her heart, and Qi Yao has indeed received a lot of resistance recently. These things have something to do with her more or less. If it weren't really too busy, she could not wait to follow Qi Yao every day, so that she would not be bullied by others. Thinking of Fang Lighting and Gu Mike who had bullied Qi Yao before, Ji Minjiao's eyes became cold. Qi Yao pretended not to feel her strange changes, and deliberately ignored the past. In fact, Qi Yao didn't need her protection, just thinking that Ji Minjiao wouldn't come to find things for herself. The fool also knew that these words must not be said right now, so Qi Yao just nodded and followed her voice to show that she understood. Ji Minjiao looked at Qi Yao, who was sitting next to him, with a simple and gentle smile on her face. In fact, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. She returned to the dormitory after handling the affairs today, and she learned that Qi Yao had already gone out. Ji Minjiu is not a person who waits for nothing. After waiting for half an hour, she became anxious. She made a phone call to investigate Shen Ruiao's whereabouts. Over time, Qi Yao's every move outside was sent to Ji Minjiu's phone without a trace. Ji Minjiu naturally also knew about Qi Yao being stopped by Gu Mike today. Seeing Qi Yao's well-behaved appearance right now, thinking of her choked voice just now, was even more annoying for Gu Mink. Who is Gu CK? She knew in her heart that Qi Yao must have been humiliated again when she fell into her hands. With these words, Ji Minjiu wanted to ask Qi Yao clearly, including what the two people in the car did, but these talking will cause Qi Yao a second-time injury, maybe it will make her depressed again. Ji Minjiu couldn't ask, squeezed and swelled with anger, all in her heart on Gu Mink. Depends on Xiao going to the bathroom to take a bath, Ji Minjiu immediately called her company and decided to use the investment of Gu's subsidiary to teach her a lesson. If necessary, give Gu Sheik some trouble. After speaking, Ji Minjiu hung up the phone. Ji Minjiu, who was calling on the rooftop, was half delicate and shy on her face. Some are just cold faces and horrible daily routines. Even those who have always deliberately pretended to be innocent, his eyes were also full of malice and ruthlessness. She is like a wolf whose disguise has been removed, gradually revealing a terrifying face. Xiao put on her pajamas and leaned against the wall of the living room to admire Ji Minjiu's changing face, wondering in her heart. The moment she turned to look at herself, she deliberately showed a confused face and smiled. Harm, don't panic and blame Gu Mike, you are also at fault, haven't you? Qi Yao looked at Ji Minjiu, who was walking towards him. All the beginning, Ji Minjiu wanted to crush Gu's vanity, and the glass of wine that had been eaten. And what about Ji Minjiu? Is it also the root of all evil? Qi Yao smiled even more happily, reaching out and grabbing Ji Minjiu's arm. A fragility flashed in her eyes. The whole person looks like being hurt and pretending to be strong. Minjiu, can you sleep with me tonight? In the end, as if worried that she would refuse, Qi Yao hesitated again, I'm afraid. As soon as he said this, Ji Minjiu, who was planning to refuse, had already filled up 10,000 words in his head. Gu Mike forced Qi Yao's drama, and was sad and guilty. After seeing Qi Yao for a while, he agreed to the request. With an excited heart and some unspeakable thoughts, she washed herself clean. When he waded out of the bathroom, crimson appeared on his fair and delicate face. With a throbbing heartbeat, Ji Minjiu reached out and pressed her chest for a long time, then waited outside for a few minutes before entering the house. It was already Qi Yao's usual night time to go to bed, and Ji Minjiu couldn't help feeling anxious again looking at the curvy figure on the bed. She sat down along the edge of the bed and was about to lie down, but a huge thrust came from her shoulders. Ji Minjiu was pushed to the ground with a pop, perhaps because he didn't expect Qi Yao to treat herself like this. Ji Minjiu was stunned. Qi Yao was puzzled. Minjiu. Seeing that face, Ji Minjiu opened her mouth, it's not you. Did you ask me to sleep with you? Yes, but the bed is too small. Qi Yao looked at the 1.5 meter wide bed and said seriously, and I'm afraid of other people sleeping with me. Ji Minjiu. Then you call me to sleep with you? Qi Yao seemed to understand, she frowned and said simply coquettishly, I want you to be with me, okay? When the voice reached the three words good or bad, there were some choking sounds again. The charming Qi Yao said these words, pure and lustful, with careless teasing. Understood, it means that she can't go to bed with Shen Ruiao, but must accompany her. Ji Minjiu wanted to hit a Tai Chi ball like before, but she didn't accept it, but when she saw that face and expression, she couldn't stop feeling guilty and distressed. It's literally. Ji Minjiu stared at Qi Yao and nodded. Qi Yao yelled the bright moon is so nice and fell on the bed, slumbering. Ji Minjiu. What did she do? Ji Minjiu sat on the chair next to her and sat abruptly all night. It's not that I haven't spent the whole night, but today's all night is different from the past. Ji Minjiu downloaded a lot of games on her mobile phone that she couldn't play before, and started struggling when she stayed up all night. She watched Qi Yao sleep soundly, and wanted to climb into bed several times to make up for sleep. But whenever she thought about it, and there was a slight shadow, there was a thread in her head that stretched abruptly, making her instantly energetic and her sleepiness suddenly receding. It felt like a hand was inserted into her head, and she was drowsy for a while. Ji Minjiu had no choice but to lower her head to play with her mobile phone and scan Weibo. She only thought that she had stayed up late and had lost the desire to sleep. In fact, it was not because of the disorder of the biological species she thought, but because of Qi Yao's own reasons. Qi Yao's body is the golden crow. She is the daughter of the ancient Tiandi Jun and the sun Zai in the great wilderness. Although Zai gave birth to 10 golden crows, she is just one of the human figures, but the meaning of divine power in itself is different from that of mortals. In the Great Famine period, in the eyes of the ancestors of Hung Jun and the three sages, she might be just a weak baby, but among the mortals created by Nuwa, she was the existence of force majeure. Qi Yao's casual sentence and Ji Minjiu's casual promise have already achieved the causality of the great wilderness world in disguise. Words must be done, deeds must be resolute. Ji Minjiu had already fallen into Qi Yao's own shackles unknowingly, so when she wanted to sleep, a tendon in her head was constantly stimulating her and constantly asking her to fulfill her promise. It is impossible for Ji Minjiu to know the mystery. Qi Yao doesn't care if Ji Minjiu knows or not. The golden crow, who has come to the great world to warm up his soul, just casually said. Seeing that she naturally fell asleep happily after agreeing, this also caused Qi Yao to get shocked when she saw Ji Minjiu sitting in front of her bed the next morning. Qi Yao was stunned for a moment, then stretched out her hand to prop up her body, got up slowly, leaned on the bedside and looked at Ji Minjiu with a face full of doubt. Minjiu, didn't you go to bed last night? Ji Minjiu, who was green after spending the night. She can't always say that she's energized whenever she wants to sleep, right? Can't you say that you want to be lazy? After all night, time flows very slowly. Ji Minjiu, the body has already begun to weaken, and I have to pretend to be indifferent and worried to try to improve Qi Yao's favorability, hoping Qi Yao can trust herself more. Seeing that the weak and pale face was a little more fragile, Ji Minjiu reached out her hand to gather her thin coat, pretended to be fragile and strong, and gently shook her head. I'm okay. Yesterday I saw that you didn't sleep well, so it's hard to fall asleep. At the end, the liar raised his head slightly with a worried look on his face. Sister, did you have a nightmare? I kept talking last night. What babbled, what did not sleep well, is simply a lie. She slept soundly yesterday. What is babbling? That is something that nightmare manages. She is a golden crow. If a nightmare dares to come to her, she will burn one to death, and if she comes to two, she will burn two. How could it be dreaming? How is it possible to babble? There is no drafting when you lie. It's fine to lie to others like this, it's too ridiculous to lie to her. Hearing what Ji Minjiu said, Qi Yao immediately frowned, showing guilt and self-blame. She bit her lower lip lightly, and the excessive force caused a mark on her lips, and her face was pale, looking like a child who had done something wrong and was scared. Having done enough psychological drama, Qi Yao hurriedly got up from the bed, approached Ji Minjiu, and stretched out her hand to gently grab Ji Minjiu's sleeve. Yes, sorry. Qi Yao's voice became softer, and there was a feeling of grievance in her sultry voice. The gorgeous face's usual brilliance has dimmed a lot because of poor mood. Qi Yao's small face was full of guilt, and her voice became more and more sincere. It must be because of me yesterday that prevented you from sleeping well. Looking at the guilt on the exquisite face without Fende, Ji Minjiu felt a little more comfortable. Before she could respond, Qi Yao, who was opposite, made an appearance of I am autistic, and began to blame herself for being useless, saying she was useless. "I'm so useless, I always trouble you. I'm sorry, Minjiu. I. Qi Yao said that, tears were already in her eyes, and her long eyelashes flickered, and finally fluttered down like a fan, and transparent tears fell. At this point, she seemed to understand something, and raised her head with a strong and reluctant smile. "Yes, should I move out? So I won't embarrass you." Ji Minjiu. Day. She didn't mean that. She just wanted to brush up on her good feelings, let Qi Yao comfort her, and give her a hug. Ji Minjiu thought the proud Balian skills shattered into dregs in front of Qi Yao. Unexpectedly, Qi Yao is a white lotus than her. Ji Minjiu, who simply wants Qi Yao to rely more on her, feels bored when Qi Yao blurts out and wants to live. She looked at the pitiful Qi Yao, and felt entangled for a moment. Xiao caught her expression and continued to apologize for his sins. He played a brilliant role of a person who is unwilling to drag others with psychological problems. "I knew this, I shouldn't have come here to hurt you. As expected, I couldn't do anything well. Just sleep, I can hurt you." Ji Minjiu. What else can Ji Minjiu do? Ji Minjiu could only put away Balian Hua's attitude, half wrapped her in her arms, patted Qi Yao on the back, and softly comforted, "Don't think too much, I'm fine. Sister, I will protect you." Qi Yao shook her head in tears and refused. "Minjiu, I owe you too much." I. Seeing that she seemed to be serious, Ji Minjiu hurriedly said a lot of good things, and finally stabilized Qi Yao's mood and promised to continue living with her in the umbrella dormitory. Tired. What is more tiring than comforting others when you are wronged? But she couldn't really drive Qi Yao away. One is because she is about to debut soon. If this matter is known to others, she might step on her. Second, because Qi Yao's fragile appearance is more or less related to her, Ji Minjiu can't be too unsympathetic out of a little guilt and unspeakable sentiment. Seeing that everything was clear, Ji Minjiu helped Qi Yao lie on the bed and covered her with a quilt. After receiving a well-behaved look in her eyes, Ji Minjiu let go of the tension in her mind. She rubbed her eyebrows a little tiredly, took clean clothes from the closet and walked into the bathroom to prepare to wash. Qi Yao looked at her back obediently, with a smirk on her face. When Ji Minjiu turned her head, she saw her look stupidly at her back and smile. Like a woman who is forgiven and happy. Ji Minjiu's heart slowed down, and the damage caused by staying up all night seemed to dissipate a bit. "Wait for the door in the bathroom to close." Qi Yao immediately put away her expression, and curled her lips boringly. She just said casually, she didn't plan to let Ji Minjiu stay overnight. She understands Ji Minjiu, and with Ji Minjiu's personality, she should go to bed, and then take advantage of her to get up early in the morning and then sit on the side of the bed. But this morning's appearance is not like sleeping secretly. The current situation can only illustrate one problem because of changing the original owner's first destiny point. Her power in this world has recovered a little. As a result, Ji Minjiu made a promise unknowingly and had to fulfill it. Qi Yao hooked the corner of her mouth. Although this ability recovery was only a drop in her original power, it was enough for humans. In that case, think carefully about how to dig a hole for Ji Minjiu. After all, the promise to the sacred beast and betrayal of the promise, luck and heaven will not let go. She was still calculating, and the phone on the bedside suddenly rang. Add WeChat. Then, as if the person who sent the message thought of something, the mobile phone number starting with 137 sent an additional message before the Xiao mobile phone's screen. "This is Gu Mink." Qi Yao glanced at the prompt and raised her eyebrows unexpectedly. Vermilion's nails swiped on the phone twice and clicked to send. On the other side, Gu Mink, who came to the company's office early in the morning, listened to Secretary Yang talked about a lot of investment projects about the National Beauty Girl variety show. She herself is not interested in chasing stars, the only thing that can move her is the nervousness of money and money about to be in the bag. Gu CK was about to reject this boring entertainment investment as he did in the past, and Secretary Yang somehow added Miss Shen has also joined. Gu CK just remembered that when the two met for the first time, Shen Ruiao represented the artist from SUQ Umbrella Company. Although she was taken away later, and the two of them did things logically, but as soon as she said it today, she couldn't help but think of what happened after Umbrella Flower Company. Since Chi Yao can be taken out for dinner, once there will be a second time. This time, Umbrella Company said it was to let artists participate in the selection. The ghost knows if there will be a scorpion in the back. What if she was taken to this kind of place again? Gu Simka frowned. She thought of the woman's charming expression, and her deliberately provocative and sensational appearance, and her mind was full of lingering Bainan and Yin. She couldn't control what Chi Yao had done before, what she had experienced, and what she would do in the future. She must be involved. If what happened that night happened again, and she was not there, wouldn't it be cheaper for others? Gu Zik sat in a chair, and in front of him was some information about Chi Yao at Umbrella Company. She watched for a long time, and when she reacted, the phone message had been sent out. After waiting for a long time, she finally received a recovery when she was about to run out of patience. Mr. Gu? We don't make an appointment. Gu CK. Who wants to make an appointment with you? For the first time since she took over the company, she felt itchy teeth. She stared at the message dangerously for a while, and finally deleted all the text messages on the phone with a cold face and put it aside. There is a feeling of being out of sight and out of mind. She is here to think about the future for the little goblin, and prepare to discuss the way forward. Did she make an appointment directly? What's in my head? Gu CK's face turned dark. First, she thought she was a fool and didn't know how dirty her company was. Second, why did she refuse so simply? Secretary Yang. He bowed his head and counted silently in his heart. Before counting to 30, President Gu picked up the phone again, cold with a beautiful face and didn't know what he was pressing on the phone. Good fellow, you deserve to be a witch, who ate President Gu to death. Secretary Yang thought silently. Xiao quickly left Gu Mink behind, because more important things were put on the schedule. The idol audition show National Beautiful Girl is about to start recording. Before the official recording, Chi Yao would naturally not play empty-handed, although the executives in SUQ Umbrella all agreed that Chi Yao was a vase, and he was eliminated in 2 random episodes. But the company still needs to do what it needs to do for the program's effect and face, and the training still needs to be taught. It was only before the draft that I thought of improving the training intensity, which shows that the management of this company is really bad. But as the saying goes, it's not bright or bright. Shen Ruiao's lack of strength is her own business, but she has to do something about her demeanor, right? Do you have to get your hair done? You have to practice how to make a sound accurately, right? I have to talk about this, sister. Don't lose your temper while recording the show, right? After finalizing the plan, Chi Yao started to get busy. Morning exercises started at 6:30 in the morning, back and legs stretched, basic dance exercises, and 2 hours of posture training after the end, followed by vocal music lessons. After finishing all this, the afternoon will focus on the programs shown on the first stage of training. Umbrella arranged 3 people for this variety show. Except Chi Yao and Ji Minjiu, the rest is Xia Miaoan, who came to Ji Minjiu one day. Xia Miaoan's basic dance skills are particularly good. When you say you move your legs, and you say you roll over and roll over. It has the basis of Latin dance and incorporates modern popular elements. Although I watch it every day, it still gives people a bright feeling. Ji Minjiu looks weak, but picking up the microphone is like being possessed. The aura, the typhoon, and the self-confidence exuded are better than the average young artist. I don't know how much. Yes. Great. Xia Miaoan keeps on, looks handsome, disdainful. How about your disdain? Shouted the training instructor. Ji Minjiu is very stable, and the voice is more delicate and emotional. You can do something. The umbrella flower training instructor looked at his two love apprentices with satisfaction. Both of them are good seedlings who are good at debut. One is good at singing and the other is good at dancing. The initial stage can be integrated in both directions, giving each other the best places to each other. It is not a problem to enter Class B to achieve a good preliminary evaluation score. It's a pity there is Shen Ruiao in this group. The umbrella training instructor turned his head and looked at the girl sitting in a daze in the corner, his head twitching. With black hair and snowy skin, red lips and white teeth, that face is like being fabricated by the creator himself, full of natural beauty and essence. 2. It just happens that it's a vase that doesn't do anything. Let her dance hip-hop with Xia Miaoan. She has a graceful posture, and when she raises her hand, she is a beautiful painting, but she can't keep up with the rhythm. Dance is nothing but good looking. You have to combine it with music. How can you count as dancing if you don't combine it? If you don't keep up with the rhythm, you can't beat the beat, how can you be complete? Asking her to sing pop songs with Ji Minjiu, the tune is correct, and there is no deviation, but it always feels weird. The song prepared by the company for Ji Minjiu is a high song, and it is sung to bring the atmosphere and mobilize the audience. But Qi Yao? She was like reading the most boring book, recited straight and without emotion. What the fuck? Can't you not be on stage? The training mentors and umbrella executives are anxious. This is related to the debut position and the company's share. To put it bluntly, if the three of them can make a 100% debut, and someone wants to make a debut in the future, their umbrella company will definitely be given priority. If there are more trainees and more opportunities, won't the company make money? The executives were anxiously headballed, and even discussed behind their backs that Qi Yao would be replaced and give other trainees a chance. But Ji's family who invested in Umbrella didn't know where they got the news, so she had to send Shen Ruiao to participate. The training instructor stretched out his hand and squeezed the bridge of his nose, and beckoned helplessly to the girl in a daze. After seeing her coming, the instructor glanced at her up and down. The long legs are long legs, and the proportions are surprisingly good. Seeing that the figure is indeed a dancing seedling, and the face is indeed the seed of debut. But, the instructor's head hurts again when she thinks of her poor hip-hop dance. I can only ask her like a compromise, with these impatience in her tone, what will you do? This is too lazy to even call the name. Qi Yao is also very innocent. As a beast born in the Great Wilderness period, how could she be able to street dance? How is it possible to sing high song? Not only does he know how to dance hip-hop, he doesn't know how to sing high, and he doesn't even know where the beauty is. This kind of aesthetic difference is just like the aesthetic difference between the parents of the parents and the parents of the children. If you think of a handsome little meat, your parents think of a mother. If you think of a beautiful female celebrity, your parents may not look good at all, or even feel less charming. What can I do? Hearing the instructor's question, she thought for a moment. Bows and arrows are fine, and long, and spears are fine. Sacrificial dance, barely knows how to do it. Tutor. Sword dancers, did you go to the martial arts conference? His head started to hurt again, thinking of the phrase sacrifice dance in Qi Yao's mouth. Reluctantly gaining some interest, he nodded, is the sacrificial dance an ancient sacrificial dance? In that case, it is considered a classical dance. I'll find you some drum music, and you listen to the drum and dance for a while. Ji Minjiu memorized the lyrics next to her. When she saw the movement here, she began to observe silently. She felt the displeasure and subtle atmosphere of her teacher. She immediately walked over and stood beside Qi Yao and held Qi Yao intimately. Arm. She glanced at her mentor first, then slightly raised her head and glanced at Qi Yao, seeing that the expression on her sister's face was not like a joke, and she was a little uncertain about what was going on. It's all here, no matter what Qi Yao looks like in the dance, she will still join in. Big deal, acting exaggerated later. Ji Minjiao made up her mind to increase her flattery after Qi Yao finished dancing. Xiao is a monster clan, the monster clan is not good at dancing, likes to solve problems with strength, likes to crush others, and enjoy the joy and pleasure of victory. But their rivals, the Great Witch clan, are not. It may be that their strength is inherently weak. Every time they start a battle, they will dance a sacrificial dance. Everyone gathers together with witch power to call out even more powerful abilities and give strength. Said it is a sacrificial dance, in fact, according to modern terms it is to pray for buff through dancing. Qi Yao didn't skip it, but as long as it was a monster clan, people who had seen the Great Witch skipped the sacrificial dance. The two sides fought and fought well on the battlefield. This group of witches suddenly danced, and danced for a long time with one jump. Coupled with the gathering of witch power, even the demon Emperor Jun could not interrupt the ceremony. Dancing once, dancing twice, and dancing every battle, the monsters were still very annoyed by the useless behavior of the witches, but they got used to it after a long time. They began to have fun in hardship, and even sat cross-legged while the Wu clan danced, discussing who danced well. The Lich races have fought for 100 years and jumped 100 times, and the crowd's onlookers watched it. Qi Yao even laughed at the dance ceremony of the 12 ancestor witches back then, but did not expect that in order to warm up the soul, she would have to dance out the sacrificial dance she had seen. Thinking of this, she looked at Ji Minjiao beside her with a smile. In the final analysis, it was because this guy gave her medicine that her Jinyu incarnation was depraved, and she had to do something that harmed the reputation of the monster race. Ji Minjiao felt Qi Yao's gaze and looked up. See her eyes unknown, the whole person feels a little irritable, thinking that she was forced by her tutor's review, and persuaded her softly, "It's okay sister, I believe that sister can do it. My elder sister is so amazing, she can still dance for sacrifices. I don't know how to dance, so I can sing better, or else I will dance here like my elder sister." After saying this, Ji Minjiao gave a sudden stop. Broken, I am used to being a green tea and white lotus, and I can't help but say such blatant and involuntary words. What if my sister thinks she is mocking her sister who can't sing or dance, and finally has to stay for an extra show? What if my sister thinks she is really taunting? Ji Minjiao chuckles in her heart, and quickly makes the final remedy, "I didn't mean that, sister. I meant... Damn it, the more you describe it, the darker it gets." Qi Yao didn't expect Ji Minjiao to start biting herself again. She glanced at Ji Minjiao calmly, and began to reflect on herself. Maybe she was busy with training recently, and she neglected to teach Ji Minjiao. She was careless. Ji Minjiao was also uncomfortable. After finally letting her sister get close to her, why couldn't she say it involuntarily? Shen Ruiao has always been smart, otherwise she would not be able to reveal her true face frequently in the past. When this is over, my sister must think too much and feel uncomfortable. Sure enough, as if to confirm Ji Minjiao's thoughts, Qi Yao showed a slightly startled expression, and her beautiful ink-colored eyes fixedly looked at her. Ji Minjiao thought she was going to lose her temper like before, and her heart became nervous again. Unexpectedly, the girl just pursed her lips and closed her eyes silently. The curled eyelashes trembled uncomfortably twice, the charming face lost its color all at once, and she looked particularly depressed. Half a rebuttal and angry words were not spoken, but Ji Minjiao saw her grievance and sadness. The girl who looked so different from the previous one must be uncomfortable in her heart, right? Ji Minjiao cursed secretly in her heart. She wanted to coax Qi Yao, but she was afraid that her explanation would make Qi Yao even more sad. What if your sister gets estranged from yourself? What if she doesn't care about herself as before? Guilt and distress engulfed Ji Minjiao, and she, who had always been eloquent, could only stand aside, sullenly in her heart. Qi Yao glanced at her expression and continued her acting. She pulled her hand out of Ji Minjiao's hand, walked silently in front of the tutor, and began to interact with the tutor. Two people discussed the overall atmosphere of drumming music, and after deliberately saying that they wanted to perform a soothing sacrificial dance, the song was settled. The soothing music reminds me of the drum beats. This sacrificial song is pure music with many drum beats. Qi Yao closed her eyes for a moment, and the ceremonies of the Wu clan's prayers appeared before her eyes. The girl stretched forward with one hand, making a ceremonial posture, her chin was slightly tilted, and her profile was very smooth. All the charm and laziness of the past disappeared, and his expression became solemn. The black eyes looked at the front, as if she was watching something, and she seemed to be looking at the empty space. Just a drumbeat, the girl's entire temperament has actually changed. The instructor and the people around couldn't help being surprised, their eyes touched the white and delicate face, and they couldn't help becoming serious. The drumbeat sounded again, and the girl began to dance with the music. The gestures were generous and dignified. When the music turned weak in the middle of the music, the girl frowned slightly, surrounded by sorrow. She didn't have any props in her hands, nor was she wearing gorgeous clothes, but she still drew everyone present into the world of sacrificial dance, so that they could eat enough of sorrow and sadness. Those who watched the dance couldn't help but feel sad, and even after Qi Yao finished dancing, they still didn't react when they closed their hands. In the end, the instructor took the lead to withdraw from his emotions. He glanced at Qi Yao complicatedly, and couldn't help but start to praise her. Awesome! This level of sacrificial dance is no longer a simple knowing a little. It almost pulled them in one by one, and deeply experienced the emotions in the dance. It's so amazing! The sad expression on Qi Yao's face did not change, she barely smiled when she heard the instructor say this, and then said that she was leaving to go back to the bedroom. The instructor thought she was immersed in the dance emotions and hadn't escaped. Knowing Qi Yao's value, the instructor also had some hope in her heart, and she was more cheerful, and readily approved her to go back. Ji Minjiao was still standing in her original position, Qi Yao shining brilliantly in the practice room, amazed and lamented. Before she had time to relax, Qi Yao was brought into a sad mood. Although the beginning and end of the dance are grand and solemn, the sadness in the middle cannot be ignored. She looked at Qi Yao's figure leaving without saying hello to her, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Was the reason for suddenly dancing such a sad dance because I said something heavy? Ji Minjiao was in a complicated mood. She feels joy because Qi Yao values herself so much, and she feels guilty because she accidentally hurt Qi Yao and broke her heart. The enthusiasm to continue practicing was greatly reduced. Ji Minjiao always remembered Qi Yao's expression of weeping when she was dancing. Her heart seemed to be blocked by a stone, and a big hole was cut open again, uncomfortably tight. Sister, she must be secretly crying in the bedroom, right? Ji Minjiao thought to blame. For several days, Qi Yao avoided Ji Minjiao. Qi Yao deliberately got up early, arrived at the morning exercise training room half an hour earlier, and started training early, leaving Ji Minjiao, who had woke up from a deep sleep, to face the empty dormitory alone. At the end of training at night, Qi Yao will continue to practice in the training room on the grounds that the training has no effect today. It is common to come back at 11:12, and I even jumped to midnight twice. Seeing her hiding, Ji Minjiao was flustered and stubborn, but also very persistent. She was sitting on the sofa in the living room of the dormitory waiting for Qi Yao, not going anywhere. While thinking about whether to apologize, she was thinking about testing Shen Ruiao's attitude. After waiting for a long time today, she was finally the girl who would go back to the bedroom after the training. Minjiao. Shen Ruiao's voice was a little surprised, with a hint of nervousness. Aren't you going to sleep? Ji Minjiao glanced at Shen Ruiao. Everyone can see her efforts in the training room these days. Probably because of returning to the dormitory, the girl removed all the strong disguise she was outside, leaving only the stubborn and slightly tired posture in her eyes. I. I'm here to ask you why you ignore me. After Ji Minjiahu's words touched the girl's tired face, she couldn't help but pause. I'm waiting for you. Her voice also deliberately became soft, like a clear spring in her ears, comfortable and gentle. Why are you back so late? Sorry Minjiahu, I made you wait for a long time. Chi Yao's eyes were full of apologize, and her voice became low and lost. I practiced the day after tomorrow in the training room in the preliminary round. Practice. This sentence seems to explain that I stayed for training because I can't dance, but the last sentence is to repeat the unintentional remarks that Ji Minjiahu said in the training room before. As clever as Ji Minjiahu, I understood it naturally. Sure enough, I'm still angry. She bit her lip, her face full of grievances and sadness, as if she was trying hard to stay after she understood her mistaken fact she was really trying to stay. Such an expression successfully concealed the strangeness in Ji Minjiahu's eyes. Sister, things are a foregone conclusion, you don't need to be so tired. No matter how bad you are, I will find a way to make you debut. Chi Yao naturally understood the meaning of her subtext, but she pretended not to understand. After a moment of surprise, his face was hard to look like. Minjiahu, do you think I am not qualified to stand in the debut position with you? After all, the words things are a foregone conclusion have another meaning. No matter how hard you try, you can't reach the height of mine. Rubbish. When Ji Minjiahu saw Chi Yao's expression, she choked in her voice, and realized that she had misunderstood Chi Yao again. She is still trying to save. No, I mean. Ji Minjiahu. Chi Yao interrupted her. Xiao began to figure out the relationship between the two people now. She is now Shen Ruiao, a trainee who has not stood in the perspective of God, is eager to debut, and is constantly training. All her hard work and forbearance are hoping to shine, stand out and stand in the position of her dreams. For her, Ji Minjiahu is not only a friend, but also a light for her to reach out and help herself in the darkest time. She hopes to give back to this light through her own efforts, make progress with her, and stand in the same position. But now this Dao Guang said that he was poor, and he used such words to forcibly open the gap between the two people. For Shen Ruiao, she should be suffering, and she should be autistic and suspicious of me. The gorgeous face turned white and white. Chi Yao showed an unbelievable expression, and then fell silent, her entire face pale. She shook her lips, and her fingertips began to turn white because of the force of the hand holding the key. Chi Yao looked up at Ji Minjiahu with difficulty, her eyes full of sadness and low self-esteem. Do you hate me so much? Her voice was soft, and the humbleness in her words was almost falling into the dust. Minjiahu, I just want to stand on the debut stage with you, not to something. What a white lotus-like lotus language, but Ji Minjiahu abruptly didn't hear anything wrong. She even entered a guilt circle because of her self-defeating remarks, surrounded her with helplessness and panic. The feeling of emptiness in her heart came, so that Ji Minjiahu didn't know what to say for a while. You don't have to wait for me in the future. Shen Ruiao glanced at Ji Minjiahu again, put the key on the shoe cabinet, turned and left with her bag. It was the last look that made Ji Minjiahu's words to discourage her mouth. There were too many emotions in those eyes. Sadness, low self-esteem, grievance, pain, disappointment, and some faint love. Ji Minjiahu was irritated. She sat on the sofa in a daze, thinking about the face of Shen Ruiao all the time in her head. Shen Ruoyao looks good and knows her own advantages. When training with trainees organized by the company before, she still relied on her appearance tomorrow night and didn't put any of them in her eyes. No one is pretentious, and somewhat arrogant. But I have to deny that if I want to stay in the entertainment circle for a long time, my face is really an ace stepping stone. People like Shen Ruiao seem to have been living as they please in the first 2 decades, with the aim of being happy on their own, regardless of others. When Ji Minjiahu saw her, she couldn't help but think of everything she was restricted by the Ji family. The brutality and jealousy in her heart made her want to destroy Shen Ruiao and this free individual that made her feel uncomfortable. But then, when she found that Shen Ruiao was staring at her with those eyes that looked like autumn water, and proclaiming that she was the only one in her eyes, Ji Minjiao's heart had changed. Now that 1 or 2 months have passed, Shen Ruiao's dependence is like a blind poppy poison. After smoking, she becomes addicted and can't quit again. Ji Minjiao's heart was empty, and she didn't know when her fingers felt a little numb. She really didn't mean it, she just wanted to comfort Shen Ruiao, she wanted to tell her it was okay. Ji Minjiao squeezed her hands with some annoyance, her crystal clear nails were deeply pinched in her palms, and she didn't react until she felt a little pain. When she thought that Qi Yao was about to leave, she shook up and immediately stood up, picked up the phone and keys on the table, before changing her shoes and clothes, in her pajamas, tapped her slippers and ran downstairs. The security of Yinchuan apartments has always been very good and will not let strangers in. Ji Minjiao glanced around and found that there was no person downstairs that he was thinking of, and hurried to the door of the apartment in a hurry. It is now 0:43, and there are few vehicles on the main road, leaving a Rolls-Royce on this empty street to be particularly conspicuous. The Shen Ruiao, whom Ji Minjiao had in mind, was held in her arms by a woman in a black dress and got into the car together. While closing the car door, Ji Minjiao also saw the person's face clearly exquisite as jade, as thin as snow. The whole person revealed a precious and reserved cold temperament, millions of blue gem earrings and black long she echoed, making her particularly cold. When Ji Minjiao saw her, she also looked at Ji Minjiao, and the two of them took a look at the distance. The man turned his head against Ji Minjiao's gradually dark eyes, and gently dropped a kiss on Qi Yao's earlobe. Lingering and gentle. Ji Minjiao was numb all over, but in the July weather, the whole person seemed to fall into the cold winter water. She, who is always good at disguising, can no longer take care of anything. The weak expression had torn apart when she saw the two people getting in the car. Right now, she was full of anger, jealous and sad, gritted her teeth and said the woman's name cruelly in her heart. Gu Mink.